I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
James.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm smart?
I do think you're smart, Jay. I think you're I think, smart is not what people think.
Right.
So, when people say, "Oh, he's so smart, he went to Harvard or whatever," like, that's BS. That just means he had good grades in high school and maybe he was a good athlete or he did charity work. Maybe he could be smart. But look, I know a lot of people went to good schools. I went to a pretty good school. There was mostly stupid people at college. Graduate school had very smart people in it.
Right.
And that's why I got thrown out, because I was the stupid one. Like, there's a saying in poker, if you can't find the weakest player at the table, it means you're the weakest player at the table. I was the weakest student in grad school, which is why ultimately I got thrown out.
Well, I mean, there's also a saying, I don't know if you agree with this. There's a saying in Chinese, even though you are really smart when you were younger, when you were older, that might not be the case.
Well, it's a different kind of smart. I mean, a lot of great writers wrote their best work when they were older because they were emotionally smarter. And I'm not going to argue about what's the difference between intelligence and emotional intelligence, but basically I'm really annoyed. I saw this video, my kids were watching this video, how to be smarter. And the first thing it said was, learn more vocabulary words. And I thought, that is such bullshit for a lot of reasons. Like, just because you have a fancy vocabulary doesn't mean you're smart. It means you just appear smart. It doesn't mean you're actually intelligent. And in fact, the best writers, there's something called the Fisher-Kincaid scale, your FK score, which sounds kind of perverted, but if you Google what's my FK score, there's various FK calculators on the World Wide Web, and you could cut and paste a document into this, and it'll tell you what grade level you wrote at. Well, I did this with Old Man and the Sea, which was Ernest Hemingway's arguably his greatest work. He wrote at like a 5th grade level. Most great works of writing done by really intelligent people, and I do think Ernest Hemingway was very intelligent and deserved his Nobel Prize in literature. Most very intelligent people write at around a 5th or 6th grade level because they're intelligent enough to know that if they have good ideas and a good story to tell, they want it to be readable. One time I had an entrepreneur, he wrote a document and I couldn't read it. I put it through the FK square. It was at like an 18th grade level. Like he was just trying to act smart. And I said, you have to rewrite this and make it at a tops a 6th grade level.
See, I'm just really curious. Like I have seen a couple proposal before. Like I would say 80% of the words I don't understand. Like why? I'm just curious. Why do you think people will want to be that kind of smart way? Like why do people think that they are smart if they write it like that?
Because most people don't want to do the actual work in their brain to be intelligent.
Right.
And so they take a shortcut, which is not the same as skipping the line. They take a shortcut so they appear intelligent. When you go to school, everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to learn a lot when I go to college or a good school or whatever. But learning is not the same as intelligence. Like I could learn, let's say I go to college and I take a class on the Vietnam War. I'll learn all of the history of the Vietnam War, and I might even learn some, experts' opinions. So I might even have very smart and intelligent opinions that I can quote. And that's what I learned. I learned, oh, the Vietnam War, we didn't really fight, so we weren't trying to win, blah, blah. I can learn an opinion, not just facts. People think, oh, in school, I just learned facts. No, you can also learn analysis and opinions, but that still doesn't make you smart. Being intelligent is about discovering things, not about learning things. It's not just learning facts, it's learning other people's opinions, other people's perspective on an event, or learning a formula to do calculus. A lot of people learn calculus, but never really understand what it's used for. And so they don't really discover anything new. They just memorize a bunch of formulas, and particularly younger people are very good at calculating things in their head. So they learn the formulas in calculus, but they never discover for themselves what calculus could be used for. They never discover, like, here's an example of real intelligence. Let's say you saw the events in Afghanistan the other day, and you said to yourself, you know what? This is just like how the Vietnam War ended up. And after the Vietnam War, you can think to yourself, well, other countries sort of lost faith in the power of the United States. And there was, in the late 70s, there was a so-called malaise, almost like a low-grade depression that swept across America because other countries weren't really treating us like the greatest country in the world. And ultimately that led to it culminated in the Iran hostage situation in 1980. So you could say to yourself, oh, maybe this Afghanistan thing, maybe the next few years we're going to experience something like this where the rest of the world doesn't really trust us in a military sense. Maybe. I'm not saying that's the case or not. I'm just saying someone who's intelligent will look at events or look at any situation and neurons will start firing and they'll make weird connections.
Right.
For instance, when COVID began, I would not have expected that a huge, huge business would be making, manufacturing hospital gowns. But, I know some people who made millions and millions of dollars completely converting their factory into a factory that went from making sweaters to making hospital gowns. And, that is intelligent. They understood what was happening and they made the best move and decisions to maximize their opportunities. Whereas other people just complained like, oh, I can't work and blah, blah, blah. And nothing wrong with that either. It's just that intelligence is hard. Just like if you wanted to build muscle, you have to really work at it. Like, maybe an hour a day of lifting weights with the trainer, and it's very painful. Well, becoming intelligent is the same thing. It's not just about, oh, I just need the correct formula and then I could do this, or I always get easy A's because I have a perfect memory, or blah, blah, blah. Right. Being intelligent is about taking that extra leap with their brain and doing things that no one else is doing, discovering new things with the information you have. Everybody can learn information. And there's a saying, information is power. So more information is only powerful if you know how to use it, if you're actually intelligent. Intelligence is not about how much you've learned or where you've learned or what you've learned. Intelligence is always about discovery, taking that next step and discovering something new. Don't take the lazy way and just like read something and now you know it. Use your brain. And it's interesting, we're coming out of this political season last year. Nobody used their brain. everybody was either a Republican or a Democrat. And if you were one of the 60 million Republicans, you all believed in the exact same menu of items.
Well,
And
I mean,
if you were one of the 60 million Democrats, you believed in the exact same, you all believed in the same thing. And Pep, you even told me you knew somebody who decided people's
oh yeah,
morality based on what
the
political
political
party they were
views.
in.
Yeah, well, it's also like people are lazy, like people, people staying at home for way too long, so they're just lazy because they don't want to think about all the other stuff. They don't want to argue with themselves to find
Right. Well,
to
that's a
find
good
a
way to put it, by
reasonable.
the way. Arguing with yourself, because intelligence is related to skepticism. Think about this for a second. You and I both know the earth is not flat, right?
Wait,
But
you sure?
well, no. How do we know that? Like, how do we actually know that? If you went back in to 500 AD,
Right.
how would you convince people that the earth is not flat? I don't know if I would do it, if I would be able to explain it, because if I look outside the window, I can't see that the earth is curving.
Right.
Yeah, the horizon's far away and I can't see beyond it, but I don't know what that, maybe just the world ends then. I don't know.
Well, didn't someone make I forgot which famous people, like back then I saw this a while ago. So he did an experiment. So what he did is he will build two towers with the same height, but they will make it like far apart, and then they will use the sun shadow to see how much curvature is the earth.
Right. So think about it. It took 2,000 years of everybody thinking the world was flat before someone discovered, he constructed an experiment. And I talk about doing experiments in my latest book, Skip the Line. He constructed an experiment and he discovered something new. Not only something that was new for him, but new for the entire world. That's a special kind of intelligence, when you could discover something new for the entire world.
Right.
Google is a great example. Larry Page, of course, is a very intelligent guy. So for decades, scientific papers have a ranking. So if other good scientific papers refer to your paper, then your paper is a good scientific paper. Larry Page looked at that and said, why don't we make a search engine like that? Up until that point, up until Google, all the search engines were just like, oh, if this article mentions the word motorcycle a lot, it must be about motorcycles. That's how all the search engines worked. But Larry Page took a decades old algorithm for ranking academic papers, and then he was like, this is not just a fact, or this is not just interesting information. I can make the world's best search engine with this. He wasn't even thinking about money. They tried to sell Google for $750,000 to Yahoo, and Yahoo rejected it. But
So I have a question for you.
mhm.
How would you correlate intelligence and creative thinking? I don't know if they are the same or not, because
No, they are. They are. They very much are, because creativity means you're creating something new. If you're a writer and you write the same thing everyone else is writing, chances are your book's not good or your article's not good. But if you're writing something new, intelligently, you've noticed something about the world in a different way than other people. You used all your information from 30, 40, 50 years of living, and you boiled it up in a pot and came up with a new discovery that you wanted to share. Maybe a big discovery, maybe a small discovery, maybe a new way of saying some story about your life that would be interesting to people. You write it and it's creative because it's new, and maybe even there's unexpected. Like, one thing I always enjoyed in my writing is surprising people, like saying something about myself that nobody would have expected.
Right.
Being able to do the unexpected on a regular basis is part of intelligence. That's because you discover something that's unexpected and you either do it or say it or communicate it in some way.
So how do you practice creative thinking? Because for me, for the longest time, I'm from Asia. Asians' educations back when I was growing up, it's all about studying and memorizing facts and memorize numbers and memorize formula. So I think we sort of just ignore the creative thinking part. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get back I'm trying to learn more about the creative thinking part. What do you think is the best way or the most practical way to, learn the creative thinking part?
And again, it's difficult. It's like,
Yeah.
I tried working out with a trainer and it was too painful for me. I didn't like it. So, it's a commitment to make yourself intelligent and creative. And also, again, you have to be able to communicate your intelligence, or else you're not intelligent. If you cannot, as Einstein said, if you cannot explain something simply, then you don't truly understand it. I do think that intelligence, though, can be trained. And the reason I think this is, as you know, and as many of the listeners know, I recently had COVID and I had a really bad case of it. And I still have, I guess, symptoms. There's like sometimes some symptoms linger for months. So I still have like this brain fog. I notice I actually became less intelligent. Like, I remember at one point I was arguing with somebody that 250,000 times 25 was 10 million. And it's 6.25 million. But something in my brain, rather than calculate, like do the extra step of actually calculating the multiplication problem, I just took some weird shortcut because my brain was not ready to push. And I still have that kind of brain fog. I could see it in my chest. Well, again, my chest rating fell 2 or 3 standard deviations, and now it's bouncing back. But it was like my brain did not want to push itself. So I started exercising my brain to get it back up to speed because I didn't know how long this brain fog would last. And again, that doesn't mean I read books or watched videos about history or that. All that stuff's fine. If you like learning things and like learning about, World War II or learning about, something in history or something in science, go for it, because an intelligent person will take everything they've learned and use it in their intelligence to create something completely new.
Right.
But here's what I did. First off, I did logic puzzles. So you ever... I'll give you a puzzle. You ready for a puzzle?
Yeah.
Okay, so you ever hear of the island of truth tellers and liars?
Oh, is that the one that like one person will tell you a truth and one person will tell you a lie, and then you have to figure out where you're supposed to go based on their statement? I
Right,
heard about it, but I'm very bad at it.
All right, I'll give you like a basic, the island of, it might not be basic, but I'll give you a puzzle from the island of,
Right.
Everybody is either a truth teller, they always tell the truth,
Right.
or a liar. They always lie. They never tell the truth. They always lie. So a guy who's nothing arrives at the island and he sees 2 people, and he happens to know that one of them is a liar and one of them is a truth teller.
Right.
And so they go up to them, and let's call them person 1 and person 2. Person 1 says, person 2 is going to tell you that she's a liar. So remember, person 1 says, person 2 is going to tell you that she's a liar.
Okay.
Now you have to tell me which one's the truth teller and which one's the liar.
Wait, did the person... Wait, so the person 2 not going to say anything yet?
Person 2 didn't say anything. Just person 1 said, person 2 is going to tell you she's a liar. What is person 1 and what is person 2?
I think person 1 is the liar and person 2 is the truth teller.
Yes, why? You have to tell me why.
Oh, shit. I thought I can
Maybe,
just be lucky.
maybe you're just guessing.
I'm literally just guessing because he said that the second person would tell the person he's a liar. But if he is telling the truth, then he would just say that he is a liar. He wouldn't say like he's telling the other person he's a liar.
Close. I'll just skip ahead.
Right.
And nobody on the island of truth tellers and liars can ever say I'm a liar.
Yes.
Because if you're a liar, you wouldn't tell the truth and say you're a liar.
Yeah.
You would say you're a truth teller.
Right.
And if you're a truth teller, you'll say I'm a truth teller. So no one can say I'm a liar. So when person 1 said that person 2 was going to say, hey, I'm a liar, person 1 was lying. So person 1's the liar, person 2 is the truth teller.
I got it. I'm so proud.
Yes, you got it right. And so this guy, Raymond Smullyan, made all these books with like these logic puzzles. And, he was really into the island of truth tellers and liars. But that's like an example of a logic puzzle. There's many types of logic puzzles.
Right.
So logic puzzles, you are sort of discovering something new. It's that light, there's an image of a light bulb. When you figure it out, that's you discovering something new. It's different. That feeling of the light bulb moment, the aha moment, is a different feeling than learning facts and opinions. And I could learn all day long what, my favorite economist thinks and why, and then I could repeat his or her arguments and seem really smart, but it doesn't actually make me intelligent. Intelligence is only when you learn all of these things and then use them to discover something new.
So like if you put it that way, I'm not smart, so I'm trying to be smart. If you put it that way, does that mean like more intelligence people will always think of a cause and effect?
Yeah, you're going to think several moves ahead. Like even in this very basic puzzle about the liars and truth tellers, you have to go through imagining them saying, I'm a liar, and what that means. And then you have an aha moment. Oh, they can't say that. So one way of exercising your intelligence is doing lots of puzzles. Another way, which I prefer, is doing games. If you're playing poker and somebody bets, you have to figure out what kind of hand does this person have that they're betting this way, and how have they bet in the past? Like, what information do I have? This is a great example where you learn some information, but then you have to use it to actually put money on the line and either bet against them or bluff or raise them because you think they're bluffing. So there's a lot of information you learn in the several hours you're playing with people, and you use that information to discover new things about them that allow you to win money from them in poker or backgammon or chess or any card game. So games are a good, safe way, an easy way to practice your intelligence. I highly recommend chess or checkers or backgammon or poker, these sorts of games. Like other games are a little simpler. Like I always think a good game or a good sport even is when there's at least 20 skill levels where if you're at skill level X, you could beat someone at skill level X minus 1 2 out of 3 times. So if you're like in the 10th skill level for tennis or golf, you could beat someone who's in the 9th or the 11th skill level 2 out of 3 times. And there should be at least 20 different skill levels for a game to be interesting, in my opinion.
So let's say if people doesn't like doing logic puzzle, people doesn't like to play game, can they start arguing with themselves to be smarter?
I think about that too, but the problem is for the past 25 years, I've been a salesman. Sometimes I'm such a good salesman, I'm afraid I'm convincing myself of something that's not true. I always have to make sure I'm not smoking crack. With a puzzle book, you're either right or you're wrong. With a game, you either win or you lose. There's no BS. And even then, I mean, most poker players I know think they are better than they actually are. People still bullshit themselves into thinking they're better than they are. So I think it's very dangerous, if you're just arguing with yourself. But if you do the exercise I always recommend, write 10 ideas a day, that's a no BS thing also. Like, did you really write 10 ideas? Did your brain sweat by idea number 7 or 8? That's also a good exercise. So far we have puzzles, games, writing 10 ideas. And again, the 10 ideas could be anything. My 10 ideas today were 10 ways to practice getting smarter. And it really is. You have to set aside the time and you have to practice. I study chess, every single day. I set aside the time. I've identified what the micro skills are to chess, and I have a training regimen that I do, and I study it every day. And I write every day. And usually we do a podcast every day. And each podcast, I try to do something that no other podcast has done. Like
having an Asian on?
Yeah, very few podcasts have Asians on. I don't know why. There's 2 billion Asians in the world, but not a single podcast except mine has an Asian on it.
Well, see, I have a question. So you say you did 10 ideas, 10 ideas a day on how to be smart. I'm just curious, will you be able to share some of yours?
Well, this is it, like puzzles, games, and the 10 ideas a day. Certainly, when I started, and I've told this story a million times, but when I first started doing that 10 ideas a day, I was so depressed. I was not creative at all. And I'll talk more about this in a second. But once I started doing that 10 ideas a day, not only did I start having better and better ideas for businesses, for books, for what people I should get in touch with, what kind of connections I should make, but I just was happier. Like when you're intelligent and creative, you're just happier.
It's funny because when you say that, so like I also did 10 ideas a day practice with my friends actually usually. So like I was depressed for a long time because my the studio I work with closed, and then I haven't officially jumped to your podcast yet, be your engineer yet. So like I was just depressed then. And then I started talking to my friends about having ideas. And then that month is like the best month for me because we just discuss ideas. And also, I think it's also very important to, if you do 10 ideas a day with your friends, you have to find friends that doesn't shoot down any ideas.
Yeah, no, people have to be, because the thing is, it's stupid to shoot down ideas.
Yes.
most ideas are bad. Like that's the whole point of ideas. It's both a quantity game and a quality game. It's not you again, you have to practice a lot all the time. It's not like it's like lifting weights again. It's not like you lift weights for a month and then that's it, you're done. You did it. Congratulations. You're ripped now. You're sliced, you're jacked, you're shredded. You've got all the muscles in the world. You've got a 6-pack, an 8-pack, whatever. You have to keep doing it every day to maintain it. It's the same thing with intelligence. So whether it's puzzles, games, doing 10 ideas a day, another thing, try to think of things that you do routinely and do them a little different. So Jay, when you brush your teeth in the morning, maybe you use your right hand. Try using your left hand. When when you walk in the street, maybe say hi to twice as many people. Maybe you see someone's birthday on one of your Facebook friends, and instead of just putting a like, actually call them and said, I just figured I'm going to call you this time instead of just putting a like on your birthday announcement. So try to do like 5 to 10 things different today, each day. And that exercised the intelligence because you have to kind of improv on the fly. Okay, the next thing on my list was whatever you read, make analogies or try to figure out what's going on. So like I said, gave that example about, if you read the news about Afghanistan yesterday, you can maybe say, hey, that's a little like what happened in the Vietnam War, what happened after the Vietnam War. Make an analogy and you could start discovering things. Again, you're not just borrowing someone else's opinion. What do the latest Republicans say? What do the latest Democrats say? Don't do that. Just look at what happened, look at the headline, and try to figure out, well, what happened and what might this mean? Like, for instance, there's a news story today that I guess Biden was meeting with the Putin or the Russian leader, and they had the Russian clock and the U.S. clock. And I've only read the headline, and they were 3 hours apart, but really they should be 2 hours apart. So people are trying to figure out why was this a staged photo, and they're very agitated. And so what does it mean? Well, yes, it's a staged photo probably, so there's not much there. But what other things could it mean? Like, does Biden or the U.S. not know what time it is in Russia, or does Russia not know what time it is in the U.S.? Like, you just start thinking about what everything means, and instead of just trying to learn the facts. Oh, everybody's outraged about this, so I should be outraged. Like J.K. Rowling last year made headlines when she said something about trans women being different than biological women. Well, I hear a lot of people just arguing either for or against J.K. Rowling, but if I ask them any questions, they don't have any answers. They don't know what really happened. Right. So do the work, figure out what this means, and then it's not such a hard problem. Okay, one person was born a certain way, the other person was not born biologically this way, but maybe in some societal conceptual way, you can argue they're the same. And what does it mean? Should they be allowed in female Olympic sports? Maybe not. Should they be allowed in the women's bathroom? Maybe. Who knows? But you could think about things in a nuanced way. You don't just have to argue everyone else's opinion. Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Maine, Mizzen and Maine.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues to or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply.
One question is for you. So, what have you read today? If you were take what you read today into an analogy and tweet it out, what would you write? Haha, put you on the spot.
Yes, because I've only, well, this is early and I only did chess today. So I would write, one important thing I learned today: when you find a good move, pause for a second and look for a better move. And this applies to chess, and it applies to business. You figure out the pricing plan for a product. Okay, you have a good idea. Okay, now wait, pause, come up with a better idea. So whenever there's one good idea, there's always a slightly better idea. Whenever there's a good move to make on the chessboard, there's probably a better move to make. Whenever there's a good bet in poker, it's probably a better move, and on and on. It's pushing your brain to do a little bit extra work, and that's what makes you better than other people, because intelligence is competitive. Some people are more intelligent than other people. And again, this is me speaking. I was thrown out of graduate school and I've been broke repeatedly. So I'm trying to just be as intelligent as I can. I'm not saying I'm intelligent. I'm kind of a loser in many respects. And I'm not just saying this in a self-deprecating way. I have to work hard at it to be even mildly intelligent. And I noticed this with the brain fog stuff. Oh man, I had really bad. So I had to work really hard. Another thing is, and this is similar to the do things different, try to surprise people every day. So I always try to surprise Robin. So like, for instance, normally when I wake up and I get a coffee and I'm just wearing a t-shirt and pants, but like the other day I dressed up in a full tuxedo at like 6 a.m, just to surprise her when she came down. Like, she would be shocked to see me in a full tuxedo, because I normally look like a dirtbag, and here I was in a tuxedo.
I think that's a good exercise because you also put yourself into uncomfortable situations. And for me, being in uncomfortable situations, it makes my neurons firing. Like, okay, how do I adapt to this situation, and how can I get myself out of this situation?
Like, what was the podcast we did that was about doing this in conversation? Come up with interesting things to say.
Yeah, how to talk to a stranger with
The Power of Strangers.
Yeah, Power of Stranger with Joe Cohen.
Yeah. So, another thing that will make you more intelligent and make you stand out as an intelligent person, again, is not knowledge, but what you do with it. So when I first started my first company, it was called Reset, and we made websites for people. We would meet the client. They would tell us what they wanted on their website. And 100% of the time, everybody in my company knew that they had to do this. We always did something extra. We always created something above and beyond what the client asked for. And believe me, they were never upset. They were always happy to get some great feature for free. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be a company. At work, if you're an employee, just do a little bit extra. That might mean coming in a little bit early and doing a little research about what someone else is working on, and maybe you could help them succeed at their job. Helping other people succeed is a great way to rise up at work, but it's also a great way to exercise your intelligence. The next things I'm about to mention don't seem like they're about intelligence, but they very much are. So people always say, oh, I could multitask. I could talk on the phone and drive at the same time. No, you can't. Nobody can multitask. The brain is like a computer, actually. The brain does one thing at a time. It may seem like your brain's doing lots of things at a time, but it's not. And so to be intelligent at any given moment, you kind of have to have a clear head. You can't be stressed. You can't be arguing with your spouse. You have to be in good health. Like when I had COVID, I was not intelligent at all. I was just lying there dead all day. And if you're lying around in bed, you're not going to discover new things. Remember, always fall back on, it's not about learning, it's about discovering. Right. So if you're stressed, like if you're always worried, like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? Am I going to lose my job? What's going to happen if there's another lockdown? If you're always worried, then that's what's in your head. Whereas your competitors are discovering things in their head, you're just anxious and worried. So you have to do whatever you can to avoid anxiety and stress. And believe me, I'm an anxious person. I never really was that depressed, it turns out, but I have definitely had like anxiety disorders and panic attacks and all that kind of stuff. And I've had to work hard to deal with that because you can't be creative if you're anxious all the time, or if you have any emotional baggage. Like, better to just not talk to your family than to argue with them all day long every day. That's how you become not intelligent, is when you're arguing all the time. That's stupid.
I felt like if you have to argue with your family or whoever, you should just set a time on your Google Calendar. This is the only argue time, so then you can focus on task at hand and only worry about it.
That's like my technique when I wake up at 3 a.m.
Right.
I tell myself, because a lot of times you ever wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like really anxious about something?
No, usually when I wake up at 3 a.m, it's usually a ghost hunting me.
Yeah, well, ghost hunting could be. I hear that happens a lot in China. Like, you could. No wonder you're Chinese. But I wake up like irrationally anxious about things that I know later on I won't be anxious about. So I always tell myself, okay, it's 3 a.m. I'm going to make an appointment with myself at 3 p.m. to discuss this very important issue with my brain. And of course, by 3 p.m, I realized it was totally irrational and there's no need. But at 3 a.m, it seemed very real to be anxious. But you really need sleep. Sleep re-energizes the brain. There's like a fluid that it cleans out in the brain when you sleep. And if you don't, and I see this again because of chess, I can measure these things because there's always a statistical ranking. If I only slept 4 hours a night for 3 days in a row, I will play significantly worse than if I slept 8 hours a night. Like, it makes a difference. If I'm talking on the phone while I'm playing, I will play worse. I could see the difference when multitasking does on intelligence. So that's basically it. And it requires work. It requires like putting in the time and, like working out physically. In about a few weeks, you'll notice a difference. In a month or two, you'll notice a bigger difference, and more. And you'll every day though, you'll notice a difference, and it gets better and better.
Right, now we're gonna take this podcast to put what it's called FK rating. So now that you explain all this, how would you define your version of intelligent and smart?
It's about discovering things. It's not about learning. Doing that extra discovery, no matter what it is that you're interested in, that's what sets you apart. That's what makes you intelligent. But again, exercise it every day. It's never too late. And again, writers, often the best writers, get their start later in life.
Yeah, and also one last way to increase your intelligence and smart is to listen to the James Altucher Show.
I know. Well, or you could become very stupid listening to the James Altucher Show, depending on how much you can't stand my articles or whatever.
All right, thanks, James. I'm gonna start doing all this practice. Like logic puzzles, games, 10 ideas and 8, and do things differently. I think those gonna be very valuable to other people and to listeners out there.
Yeah, particularly now in a world where you could just Google every fact. Having information is now a commodity. But what you do with that information, that's what's going to separate the discoverers from the Googlers. Only you can discover new vistas of living for yourself. Enjoy, tweet out if you like this one, and tell me what exercises you're doing. And like I mentioned in the other podcast, it's all absurd anyway. It doesn't really matter. So just have fun.
The McNugget Buddies are back. But this time, they got a fresh look as part of the new Kerwin Frost box at McDonald's. We're talking all new buddies, dressed head to toe in the freshest fits, all designed by the artist Kerwin Frost. So when you order the Kerwin Frost box with your choice of 10-piece McNuggets or a Big Mac, you'll get one of the flyest McNugget buddies to go with it. Think you can collect them all? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last.